Hello, my name is Leslie, and I decided to do my project on ancient Greek architecture and its influence on modern day architecture. And I apologize in advance for any mispronunciations throughout my presentation. Enjoy! Let's start off with defining architecture. According to Oxford Dictionary, it's defined as the art and practice of designing and constructing buildings. Here's a few basics. First off, Greek architecture displays a great amount of logic and order. Precise mathematical equations were applied to create symmetry and to create the most pleasing image to the human eye. Precise equations were also used to determine width, height, and other characteristics. The Greeks paid immense attention to creating the most pleasing visual effect, and they also seemed to view buildings as sculptural. There are three styles known as classical orders. The styles include Doric, Ionic, and the Corinthian orders. Similar to Greek sculpture, Greek architecture was divided into three periods: the Archaic, Classical, and lastly, the Hellenistic. Before I elaborate on the three orders of Greek architecture, I would like to go over a few architectural terms. As you can see on the right, I have color coordinated and labeled each part of the structure. Another Greek term used to define structure is called an entablature. The cornice is a set of crown moldings at the top of the entablature, also helpful in draining water from rainfall. Triglyphs are decorative elements of a frieze, and the frieze is the most wide and central part of the structure. A metope is a usually square piece in the frieze and is occupied by a panel of relief sculpture or ornaments. An archive is a term that derived from the Greek word for the main beam, and this is the lowest part of the structure. The capital, on the other hand, is at the very top of the structure, at the column in particular, and it aids in distributing the weight of the structure. The shaft is the section of a column between the base and the capital. The first of the orders is the Doric. This is the first style of classic architecture. Doric columns often tend to be more wide than the columns within the Ionic or the Corinthian orders. These capitals are smooth and round and are usually quite simple and plain compared to the other two orders. It's considered to be the most recognizable of the three, and it's the most popular during the Archaic period. Here's a few examples of Doric architecture within ancient Greece. On the left, you have the Basilia at Paestum, and on the right, you have the Heraeum at Olympus. And here's a few examples of Doric architecture within America. On the left, you have what is called the Crypt, and this is the first floor of the U.S. Capitol building, located in Washington, D.C. On the right, you have Justice Hall, which is located in New York City. As you can see, the columns in both of these images are quite smooth. Next is the classical orders is the Ionic. The Ionic columns tend to be much taller than the Doric columns, appearing more slender. They're a bit more decorative as well, and the frieze is usually plain. The base is often large and appearing stacked, almost like stacked rings or stairs. Ionic columns have flutes, and flutes are simply carved lines running down the shaft of the column. These columns were unique in the sense that they have entasis. Entasis refers to the slight curves that run down the shaft of the column, inducing a visual illusion of concavity and also making the column appear more straight. Here's a few examples of Ionic architecture within ancient Greece. On the left, you have the Temple of Athena, Nike, and on the right, you have the Erechtheion, and this is the north porch of that structure. One common characteristic of the Ionic architecture are the spirals located at the capital of the column. As you can see in each of these photos, they each have the spirals. And here's a few Ionic architecture structures within America today. On the left, you have the Longworth House office building located in Washington, D.C., and on the right, you have the Little Rock AME Zion Church. Note also these buildings have the structural characteristics of Ionic architecture. The last of the three orders is the Corinthian. This is by far the most decorative, unique, and creative. Similar to the Ionic, entasis is used to make the shafts appear more straight and as well as flutes. The capitals of these columns are usually decorated with flowers or leaves and a small scroll, in other words, the spiral. They're by far the most elaborate and detailed as well. Here's a few examples of Corinthian architecture within ancient Greece. On the right, you have Hadrian's Library, and on the left, you have Hadrian's Library, and on the right, you have the Temple of Zeus Olympian. Here's a few examples of Corinthian architecture within America. On the left, you have the Hall of Columns, located in Washington, D.C., and on the right, you have the Allegheny National Bank, located in Michigan. As you can see in both of these images, they have the floral decorative designs at the top, in other words, the capital of each column. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed my presentation.